nobody is going to create anything anymore. Cool. I'm all about rule of cool with D&D. Chrono Trigger had everything. For their time, the graphics looked amazing. Is typically when I do AI, when I do the prompts for that, I try to reference dead artists as, "Hi, I'm James Schofield, and I'm from the Backlogs. I am a gamer, of course, also a D&D Forever DM, and I also am a voice actor."
Awesome. And what do you like to do? I know you said forever DM and voice act, but outside of those things, what else do you like to do?
Yeah. Well, I have 3 children, so and they run the gambit from 15 down to 3. So it's gonna be a lot of, tea parties,
Yeah.
a lot of nail salons,
Hmm.
and, we actually just before this interview, took a trip over to the park to play. So really just being able to do things, with my kids, is really my number 1. But other than that, I'm a huge technophile, so I love going out and just checking out all the new gear and playing around with it. I mean,
Yeah.
this is one of my newer microphones actually that I got, just because I love studying all of that. And I'm also a book nerd. I'm an anthropologist, so I love studying books. I love reading the ins and outs of all the nonfiction. I do like fiction too, of course, but
Yeah.
I'll read textbooks. I read textbooks
You graduated
for
at
leisure.
yeah, and I mean no, that's awesome. And I remember looking into your you know profile and accounts. You graduated from the University of Oakland.
Yeah, Oakland University, go Golden Grizzlies.
Yeah. How was that?
Oh, it was amazing. Just before then, I was at community college, and I like to say there was a professor there that ruined my life because
Yeah.
I originally went in for computer information systems. You know,
Hmm.
I was a big nerd, was doing those jobs, and then the market shifted, and they're like, "Hey, you need a piece of paper to know what you know," even though I've been doing it for 10 years. So I was like, "I'll go back to school," and then I took an anthropology course.
Hmm.
and and that again, that professor ruined my life because I ended up completely changing my major when I went to university. Went into anthropology. It's a gorgeous campus. For me, it's very important that I'm on an inclusive campus, so it was a very inclusive campus,
Hmm.
and just the professors there are amazing.
So it sounded like while you were getting your bachelor's, right? Because you have your bachelor's. Um,
I do, yeah,
yeah. So when you were getting your bachelor's, sounded like you were still continuing the grind. Probably had kids around that time. Yeah. Okay. So I
yeah, yeah,
imagine.
yeah. I went to school late, so I originally was going when I was younger. Dropped
Hmm.
out because the professors yelled at me for skipping ahead.
Yeah.
It was in IT, and I
Yeah.
already had been doing the work. And then years later, my wife at the time convinced me to go back to school because she went back,
Hmm.
and then I went back and fell in love with anthropology.
That's awesome. I've taken only probably maybe two anthropology courses, but
Oh, that's a shame. You need more.
I need more. I went to school for kinesiology, so a lot of it was more biology and science classes. That's my jam. I really enjoy the biology. Now, around that time, um, when did you start gaming? Before I clicked record, it sounded like you recently became a gamer, or have you been a gamer for a long time?
Oh my lord. No, I've been a gamer for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's see. My dad actually he used to work maintenance for hotels, and sometimes they leave stuff. And one day they left a Sega Genesis behind, and so he brought it home, and I was able to play the Sega Genesis, Sonic the Hedgehog.
I bet that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and ever since then, I was always hooked. I mean, you pretty much most of the excuse me, pretty much most of the systems, you name it, I've probably had it.
So, what I guess has been your favorite system to play on so far?
We have to go way back
Yeah,
to the Sega Dreamcast.
the Dreamcast. You
That
know,
greatest system of all time.
that's the one console I want to play on a Dreamcast. I've only seen one. It was my uncle's. He had it like on a shelf. He said it was part of his collection. Wouldn't let any me or my brothers touch it. But I mean, I've always wanted to play a Dreamcast game. Hopefully, one day before they all go extinct. I know there's not too many of them out there.
Yeah, I mean, they were honestly the Dreamcast itself. I think it failed because it was too far ahead of its time. I mean,
Yeah,
it
you
was
see
the
that
first
happen a
one to
lot.
have, yeah, it was the first one to have online features. It had a web browser in it. I mean, it was dial up, so
Yeah, yeah.
it
So it's
wasn't
still
really
slow.
good. But still, I mean, it had all the bells and whistles that you could ask for. statute of limitations is up, so I can say this now. It was very easy to rip video games. Oops.
Nope.
I may
Nothing wrong
have
with
may have
that.
downloaded a game or two.
Nothing wrong with
If
that. Hey, sometimes it's okay to sail the cyber seas.
hey, when you're a broke kid, sometimes you gotta make do.
Yeah, I mean, if they leave the back doors open, they leave them open.
Yeah, you
Not
could just
saying not
literally
saying
burn
I
a CD.
not saying I condone that, but it's just a thing that happens in our society in reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it sounded like no one really got you into gaming. Just your dad just happened to bring this up one day. Yeah, turned it on and just changed forever. Now it's Sonic.
Yeah, yeah, that was Sonic. I mean, before then it was board games really.
Mm-hmm.
Jealousy against my dad because he would play Hero Quest, which
Here,
is like a board game version of Dungeons and Dragons with his friend, and I always wanted to play, but he said I was too young. So naturally, when I got older, I went ahead and bought it as a as a screw you, dad.
yeah, I think that's a pretty good screw you. I think it's one of those things where it's like, do I let my kid join because they're gonna slow down the experience? But then it's like, oh, this is too old for you, or it's too much. And then you get older and play, and it's like, this isn't complicated at all. I could
Yeah,
have I could have figured this out after a game or two.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I looked at it and I was like, okay, yeah, I could have picked it up, but I get it. I
Yeah,
was like, I think maybe 6 or 7 at the time when I was
mm.
when I was trying to play that with him, so I get it.
Okay, so you're not I would say the newer generation of people who play video games that have been playing it since they are out the womb. The only reason I say
Yeah,
that is there's pictures of me when I was 2 or 3 with a PlayStation 1 controller in my hand. I don't remember playing those games, but there's pictures out there of me playing Tomb Raider or Frogger or something like that. And so
yeah.
you started getting into gaming around the 8, 7, 8, 9 years old. So have you always been?
Yeah.
So would you say that playing that Genesis is what kind of got you into computers and wanting to work in software?
I mean, pretty much everything in general. I think video games were a natural progression for me because
Mm-hmm.
I actually, since about 2nd grade, put it this way, in 2nd grade, I was teaching the teachers how to use the computers
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
was always into computers in general. Um, I mean, beyond that, at school, I would play like the typical Oregon Trail and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that console that really got me into it, and I think the console itself, me being able to play that, kind of reinforced my love of computers
Mm-hmm.
because I eventually tried to code for a while, and I kind of got into all different facets, and of course now I'm into voice acting because of it.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of like computers and video games were like my gateway to so many more other things that I do in my life.
That's that's awesome. How long have you been coding? I've tried to code before, and that gets my head spinning like an owl. I
I am
cannot figure it out for the life of me.
Yeah, no, I am thankfully retired from that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
retired after probably about my infinity night of standing out or sitting down, staring at the screen with a bottle of balls, Bawls. This
yeah.
is before most people's time, probably, but
Yeah,
before Monster or Red Bull were a thing, you drank the caffeinated beverage known as balls, which also I thought was funny that they were in a ribbed uh, glass called balls.
yeah. They were doing something with that.
They were definitely,
They
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 knew
knew
what
what
they
they
were
were
doing.
doing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I'd be sipping on those all night trying to figure out, okay, what was going on. I would miss like a semicolon on line 231, and I'm like, and
Yeah.
then I'd fix it, and then another error would come, and I'm like, okay, this is not for me. I don't have the patience for this. So I just do HTML. That's about as advanced as I get anymore. That's so.
Okay. And with the games you play, I mean, in your current day, because I know we're talking about a lot of playing your Genesis and playing those older consoles. I guess what do you play in your now? Do you play more PC? Do you play more on a console, or do you even play more on a mobile phone? If I really looked at it, I probably play more on my mobile phone than I actually do any other console.
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, I don't play much on my mobile phone beyond honestly, it's solitaire. For me, I need that bigger screen,
Okay,
so it's a lot harder for me to play on the phone. I have been looking into the Backbone though. That does look pretty sweet, so
those
I
look
might try that out.
badass.
Yeah, so I've been looking into that, but yeah, for the most part, for me, it's mostly PC now. I had a PS5 and an Xbox. Uh, Sold the Xbox because I wasn't playing it anymore. Now have lost the PS5 in the divorce. So you have to talk about kids and you got to talk about tech. When you're getting divorced, who
Okay.
gets what, right? So she kept the PS5, so I started playing more PC now. And I'm really just looking into, bringing my catalog into the PC instead. So
Okay.
starting to get there.
I see. Okay. Makes a lot of sense when I was looking at your backlog, how there's some newer games that look like that you've purchased but didn't really have much playtime. That makes a lot more sense. Um, Definitely gonna ask about that. So going on that, what is your favorite genre of game? At least what I was looking at, it seems like you're really into the fantasy setting.
Yeah, absolutely. RPGs are really the number one thing for me. Again, I started on Sonic, but I always tell people that what really, really, really kind of cemented my obsession with gaming was Chrono Trigger back for the Super Nintendo, because I got a Super Nintendo eventually too. And that RPG, again, another one kind of ahead of its time. I mean, it had alternate endings and all this, and I'm like, how did you fit this on this tiny cartridge? But those RPGs were just really, it's an interactive story, and what's better than being able to be part of a story? I love it.
You know, to a layman myself or someone green as myself to Chrono Trigger, what about that game was so special? I've seen, videos of, say, like Screw Attack like 10 years ago talking how Chrono Trigger's one of the best games ever made, and I've always wanted to play it. I
Yeah.
just haven't played. So what was so special about it to you?
I mean, I really hate the phrase lightning in a bottle because everybody always uses that, right? But it really was. I mean, for me, video games need to accomplish three things. I mean, they need to have good graphics, but that's secondary to me.
Oh, yeah.
They need to have a great story, and then they also need to have a good soundtrack for me as well. If they don't have a good soundtrack, it's hard for me to get into them because I'm really big into music. Chrono Trigger had everything. For their time, the graphics looked amazing. The story, I mean, the way that they had to work that story around, I mean, they had multiple different times that you were going into, and different things that you did in certain times affected the other time zones that you were going into. The characters themselves, they were great characters. I mean, you had a frog as a knight.
Yeah.
I mean, and then just again, going back to the story of it, there'd be decisions that you made in the beginning of the game that you didn't realize were a big deal. That later on, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's, part in the game.
The
I mean,
game's
it's old
over.
enough
The
now.
game's
I can
over.
spoil it.
Yeah,
It's
the
old
game's
enough
over.
now. If
Yeah,
you haven't
it's
played it, you deserve to be spoiled. There
spoiler
we go.
warning. Yeah, spoiler warning. The game's over
Yeah.
25. There's people that there's
Don't
there's
say how old it is.
yeah, there's people who are playing video games right now, and Fortnite's older than them. Like, yeah, so
Yeah.
you can spoil it. Yeah,
Yeah. So basically, you end up in like a trial, for like kidnapping the princess, and all these decisions that you had, it would play back like, oh no, you did this, you tried to steal this, you did that. I'm like, and again, this was for Super Nintendo. This is before you had all this like storage that you could do. I mean, it's a little tiny like 8-bit cartridge, right? And it was able to store all that, save all that, and bring it in to again pull you back into that story and showing you that, hey, the decisions you're making have actual consequences in this game. And again, that was almost unheard of back then. You know, there wasn't like a consequence based kind of thing. You just played your game, and you know, in the moment, whatever you did is what happened. You wouldn't know later on. There was no like reference back a lot of times.
yeah.
So it was amazing. It
Uh,
was
And maybe
it was the
make
best story.
decisions like not like today where I feel like it's very admirable to see someone beat a game in a weekend. So I feel like it's more common to back then maybe to play a game for they say between 2 to 6 hours at a time, and then it
Yeah.
takes you weeks to beat what could be relatively maybe considered a short game. I've never played Chrono Trigger, so I don't know if it's long or short.
Yeah.
So some people who play it a certain style might be long. To others, it might be one of the shortest games I've ever played. Again, I've never played it, so I don't know how many hours it actually takes to beat. But I feel like it's one of those things where it's like you make a decision 2 weeks ago that you're getting reminded of, and it's like, what did I do? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I mean, and Chrono Trigger very similar way. I mean, it was one of those games too. The way it was designed, you could beat it in like 6 hours, no big deal, but you wouldn't get the experience of the full game. To play
yes,
the full game, I one time I think I want to say I got like 40 or 50 hours out of a playthrough, which
Hmm.
again, back then, I mean, that was a lot. It
Yeah,
wasn't
well,
like
yeah.
nowadays, which, let's not talk about how many hours I play Baldur's Gate. I don't know if that's public when you looked at it, but
If I had access to your Steam, because I'm assuming you've also played it on Steam.
yeah, I'm playing it now on Steam, but it was on the PS5 I was playing it on.
So
I mean, I'm at
unfortunately, the
600.
program I was using 600 hours.
Yeah.
That's kind of lightweight. You got to up those numbers.
I Well, my ex-wife is up to a little over 900 on Baldur's Gate,
so
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 she's
rookie
she's got me
numbers.
beat.
No shit.
Yeah, I know, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But, but again, with Chrono Trigger, 40 hours, that's like in today's and
Oh,
we'll use time inflation. In time inflation, it would be like 600 hours.
yeah, yeah.
So, but the other thing with Chrono Trigger too, again, going to the music, the music just again, this is an 8-bit cartridge. So what can you do with the music? There's not a lot, but
Mhm.
they made it sound absolutely gorgeous. Um, Nobuo Uematsu was actually part of it. Who, for anybody who doesn't know, he did a lot of the Final Fantasy video games. That was his thing. Those epic battles and everything that you're hearing, they were typically him on Final Fantasy. So he actually consulted on Chrono Trigger as well. So the music is, mm,
Let's say Square Enix is, or Chrono Trigger is a Square Enix game, isn't it?
yeah,
Okay,
if I
yes.
recall,
So it makes sense. It's all the same crew
should
that.
be Square. It was
Okay.
either Square or Capcom. It's usually either Square or Capcom back then.
When I rewatch this, I'll look it up and make sure that's right. So yeah, so it sounds like RPGs, fantasy realm is something you're really into. So what are the type of games you can't get into? Like it's just a genre, maybe a setting. You look at it, it's like, oh, this really isn't for me.
Yeah. Honestly, it was like all the I call them casual shooters. So Fortnite, PUBG, all those ones. It was really hard for me because I do also do used to also do first person shooters.
Hmm.
Call of Duty, um, I can't remember which Call of Duty it was off the top of my head. I want to say it was two or three, maybe something like that. Or Black Ops. It was Black Ops 2. That's what it was. Black Ops. I used to play that all the time, and those games are awesome. But then when I played, uh, Fortnite and all that, those kind of that resource grab element and building and things,
Yeah,
it's just it's one of those things where it's like it's too hard to start for me. I want to be able
yeah.
to at least, so I'm going against people who already are like level 5 bazillion and they've got all these extra bells and whistles. I'm like, I'm sitting over here with a crowbar,
I,
you know. So
I think that's partly why they added zero build, because there are a lot of people that are, this mechanic is way too complicated and hard for me to even learn, because everyone just will destroy me, and it's like I don't even have the opportunity to attempt it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, okay, again, veteran gamer. I felt like a noob,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, I'm a new person again. This is not good.
I think that's what's hard is have you heard of a game called Deadlock? It's being made by Valve.
Yeah, yeah,
When I started playing Deadlock, that was a game that made me realize, like, okay, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. Now I'm a lot better at Deadlock than when I first played, but there's so many systems and mechanics and movement tech and heroes you have to learn, and it's just you have to be good at movement, you have to be good at shooting, ability resource management, money resource management, item resource management, and it's like there's all these things I have to fill in my head. And so now it's at the point when I play and I'm playing against someone that's, you know, only maybe has a couple games on their belt. It's very obvious they only have a couple games on their belt, and you feel kind of bad
yeah,
because it's like I don't want to destroy this person, but I also want
yeah. No, That's kind of where I'm at, and people don't want to destroy me.
to. So let's see. So and right now, and maybe from when you first started playing games to now, is there a game that you have played that you just cannot get into, but everyone just universally loves? Everyone loves this game, and it's just like, why? How can people like it? It's the hill that you're willing to die on. Do you have any games like that?
Um, I mean, for me, I'll be honest. I try to see the appeal
Mm-hmm.
in all the video games because they're all kind of their own. They bring something different to the table. But for me, I mean, it's really it is Fortnite for me. Like I tried to get into it. I don't understand the appeal. Um, and I think it's because honestly, it's a game that was made outside of my generation. I mean, it's in my opinion, it's very kind of almost like Gen Z. And I'm a millennial, which I know millennials play, but I feel like the dances and all the stuff that they incorporate into it. It's very geared towards that generation, which is great, and I love that. Let's get more gamers in here. But it's just something that it doesn't mesh with me.
But that's fair. I remember seeing a post um, on Reddit. Everyone has to be on Reddit.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Twitter. I don't remember, but saying that Fortnite was like a daycare, and they've noticed that when Fortnite got really popular, a lot of the games that millennials would play that were starting to be kind of infected by my generation, Gen Z. Once Fortnite became popular, it seems like that crowd left, and everyone like wanted to hate Fortnite, but it's also this hate love relationship. Like I hate to play the game, but I love it's there because now I have millions of people who are playing that game instead of playing my Days of Defeat or Days of Infamy or what have you, or my classic shooters that I like to
Yeah.
play with my friends, and I don't want to hear some bitch ass kid get on the mic.
Yeah, no, I've had that. There's times it was great because speaking of that, Black Ops 2 got put out on Xbox Game Pass.
About a year or two ago, right?
Yeah, and that was like because everybody played online again. I was like, yes. And so I jumped back in. And then, of course, it was one of those things. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is not like riding a bike. And I got
Yeah.
killed I think I got killed in like the first 10 seconds or something like ridiculous. And I'm like, wow, I suck already. Oh my gosh. So, but it was so much fun to be able to play it again. But yeah, no, I mean, it absolutely is. Again, I get it. It's a great game for what it is. It's just, I can't get behind it.
Which that's fair. And going with the games we play, the games you like, I want to start talking about D&D. Now, the reason I wanted you on to be episode 2 on my next for this channel was one, you filled out the form very fast. You filled it out before. I don't know how you found it so fast. You filled it out. I had 2 people test it out just to make sure it worked on my end. You filled it out before both those people. So like it was probably up for like less than 5 minutes.
I mean, I just got to say, video games. The second I see video games, I'm like, oh crap, I got to do this.
Yeah, which is fair. But all of my questions were um literally video games on a video screen. It would be a phone, a console, Switch, what have you. And I forgot to include. I'm going to include this after this episode ends. Board games. There's people who
Yeah.
play video games that play board games or pen and paper style games, and I don't want to alienate them. And that's why I wanted you on because that is a genre of game, and there are people who are game makers that play that. And it seems like for you, it was D&D seems to be your board game of choice at least for right now. So what got you into D&D? Like, have you played it your whole life? Is this a new endeavor?
So I grew up in what I affectionately call, we'll just put it this way: at the end of our city, we call it Tucky because it's very southern-ish, even though I live up here in Michigan. So there wasn't a lot of nerds in my city, but I grew up and I got the player's handbook 3.5 because there are different versions of
Mm-hmm.
D&D. But I got version 3.5 of the player's handbook, made my own character, got really into it, loved the book, read it cover to cover, and there was nobody to play with. Because again, this is before the internet was huge, right? We had AOL chat rooms, sure, but that was about it.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have a lot of opportunity to play it. So I kind of just, it went by the wayside, just like most things do when you're younger. And then I played Baldur's Gate with my ex-wife, and we fell in love with Baldur's Gate and the story. And of course, Baldur's Gate, it's literally digital D&D. It's licensed by Wizards. It is using the 5e rules modified, um, and it's even set in the same locations, right? So
So,
we really
uh,
got that, and that was my excuse to basically tell my wife, "Hey, I mean, D&D?" And
question about Baldur's Gate. Are you talking about Baldur's Gate 3 in particular?
yes.
Okay,
Yes, sorry,
so
Baldur's Gate 3.
not
I'm sorry, there's 3 iterations.
yeah, not the original. I was
But
like, okay, so you've been playing for a long, long time.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
okay, so you recently found your love for D&D with Baldur's Gate 3. I think Baldur's Gate 3 really brought out a lot of love for that game in a lot of people. And I think we're going to have a whole new generation of people who want to play the pen and paper version of the game.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I'm a forever DM. So if anybody wants, just give me a call.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with it, and I tell people too. Anybody who is kind of like they start to look at the rule book and all this, like, oh my gosh, because there's a lot. There is a lot. I mean, literally, they're textbooks, right? Let me here. I actually have it right next to me. Oops, sorry
Yeah.
about the bumps.
I got
I mean,
mine.
this is the monster manual. This is just monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
got,
mean, there you go. You have the DM guide.
yep.
This is just monsters in general. Player's handbook just as big. And so, people start to feel a little overwhelmed. And I always make sure to explain. I always ask them. One of the first questions I do ask them is, have you played an RPG? Have you played Final Fantasy? Have you played, back in the day it was Chrono Trigger, but have you played Final Fantasy? Have you played even Kingdom Hearts? What have you
Mm-hmm.
played? Oh yeah, I've played that. Okay. That game rips off of D&D.
Yeah.
Because almost every video game out there, RPG, the rule set is not the same, of course, but there are a lot of similarities. And the main difference, though, is that 9 times out of 10, the video game handles things for you, like the leveling and all that good
Yeah.
stuff.
Where to put
In D&D, it's all
skills, the
manual.
roles,
So,
roles.
yeah, everything is handled for you. Um, but in D&D, it's all manually done. Now, there are tools that have really helped with that as well, and I plug people into those
Mm-hmm.
to help make it easier for them to transition into it. But yeah, for the most part, it's all you, and that's why I think some people can feel a little overwhelmed.
Which, yeah, I will say the very first time I played D&D, my session zero, like, I feel like lasted 3 hours. And because I was like, I don't know
Yeah.
any of these classes, I don't know any of these races. What's the
Yeah.
importance of all that? And then the DM I played with, which I just the kind of it kind of turned me off from the game, but it was one of those where I attack with a short sword. Well, what does your short sword do? And it's like, he's like, I know the
Stabby,
answer.
stabby.
Yeah, I was like, I hit the person. I mean, what dice do I roll? And he's like, I know the answer. Look for it in your handbook. And then he would make everyone wait to like find the page on the handbook. Oh, I do one d6 of damage. I don't know if that's right. I'm just making a guess, but I do one d whatever of damage.
Yeah, yeah, actually, I do think a short sword would be a D6.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, I do one d6 of damage, and it's like, okay, you could have just told me that. You didn't have to make me wait the time, have to look at the glossary, wear a short sword. And it's like I get that's what you had to do back then, but I feel like that's more of the DM than the player. I mean, do you want
Yeah,
to help the person that you're playing with, or do I guess do you want to give them the true hardcore experience while I sit here with all the answers? So I know
yeah,
you've called yourself a forever DM a few times, but there's had to be a few times where you weren't the DM.
yeah.
And
I am actually currently in a Wednesday campaign. I make the joke though because again, me being a forever DM, I actually have to pay to play.
mm,
So I'm on. I go. There's a website that's amazing called Start Playing, and that one right there, amazing to find a group to play. And so I went on there because I was like, I want to play a game, but everybody just wants me to be the DM. So I
yeah,
went on there. I signed up for actually the starter set of D&D is Lost Mines of Fendelver, and sure enough, somebody had that, and I've been wanting to run that as like a newbie kind of campaign for people. So I was like, let me try it as a player because my whole thing is I'm an experience based person. So
yeah,
if I haven't experienced it, I don't feel like I'm going to do as well. So if
fair,
I play it, I can experience it as a player so I can understand, okay, here's where I might need to pivot as a DM, or here's this scene was really hard. I need to modify it before my game, right?
yeah.
So I've been playing it and it's amazing. I've got a dwarf war cleric. I totally ripped him off of Pike from Critical Role,
Yeah.
but he's amazing. I love him.
So and that was gonna what I was gonna get into. When given the opportunity, what's your favorite race and class to play as? And going even deeper with subclass and all that.
Yeah. So I think for me at least, that's really one of the reasons why I am a forever DM though as well, because I just love all of them, right?
Mm,
For different reasons. Um, Currently though, that cleric, he's my first cleric that I've tried to play with. He's been amazing. The I kind of have him really well balanced to being able to heal and attack as well. I mean, he can pack a punch. I mean, when he gets at you, it's like over. I've got this amazing war axe. I've got, um, of course, my guiding bolt is just, and so he's really well spec'd. But for me, typically, whenever I play games, in general, I tried to be a wizard in D&D because I'm always a wizard in all my RPGs. I love magic using.
Okay.
Not realizing that in D&D, you basically have to go back to college to be a wizard.
Yeah.
It's very complicated. There's all these different spell components, and you got to make sure that you actually literally have like a dove feather with you in your backpack in order to cast this spell. And I'm like, what? Like, there's a lot of studying, and I came to realize that the wizards in most RPGs are actually based off of sorcerers in D&D,
Mhm.
and the sorcerer I've been having a lot of fun with as well.
You know,
So,
that was actually going to be my next question. One of the games I saw you've played was Hogwarts Legacy. So I'm assuming you're
oh my
probably,
gosh.
which we'll get into that later. We'll get into that later. But I'm assuming that you're a Harry Potter fan.
Yep, definitely a fan of Harry Potter. Not a fan of the author, of course.
Yeah.
But I think that goes without saying nowadays. But yeah, big fan of Harry Potter. My girlfriend in high school got me into it.
Mm-hmm.
She forced me to go to the movies because I was again one of those boys like I wouldn't even listen to boy bands because ooh no, I'm a man. I don't listen to
Yeah.
boy bands and I
Yeah.
don't do this and Harry Potter's for little girls.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I was that kind of kid growing up. But then my girlfriend eventually in high school got me to go to see Goblet of Fire with her. So I took her
Okay.
naturally. And watching Goblet of Fire, I was like, holy crap, this is freaking awesome. And sure enough, I was at work the next day. They sold Harry Potter books, so I bought the big box set that they had
Yeah.
back then of paperbacks
Yeah. Yeah.
and read every single one of them. They were
So
amazing.
so now the being well versed in Harry Potter and reading the books, knowing most of the lore. Is Harry Potter a wizard or is he a sorcerer?
Ooh, that is a good question. Hermione definitely a wizard.
Yes, I kind of have to agree.
I mean, Harry Potter, I feel like, yeah, if I did have to say if he was a D&D class, if he had to pick his class for D&D, he would be a sorcerer. I mean, most of his stuff, I mean, it's all natural, right? It's all in the moment. It's
I think almost
yeah, I
all of
mean,
them
he knows
are.
spells. Yeah, but Hermione though, like she does the nitty-gritty and
Yeah, yeah.
brings them down and she trains and all that. Which Harry Potter, yeah, he tries to learn and all that good stuff, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's just natural for him. It's not like I mean, how good did he do actually in school?
Like
You know?
Jordan, LeBron, Kobe. I mean, they're sorcerers in their sport, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Still work at it, but it's okay to be a sorcerer.
But they had the natural gift to begin with, and I
Yes.
think with Harry Potter, it's like he already had that natural kind of magic within him. Which I mean, I know that all the wizards in Harry Potter do, but for him, it was again, it was like because with sorcerers versus wizards in D&D, wizards they get their power from knowledge, right? Their actual spell casting is all based around their textbooks, all based around their spell book, which they carry with them. Whereas a sorcerer can just flick of the wrist and there you
Yep.
go, right? So I think yeah, I mean with Harry Potter, it's definitely I could see him as a sorcerer.
Okay. Now, a Goblet of Fire. That's the first one, I believe.
Goblet of Fire was number 3.
The Sorcerer's
Yes,
Stone,
you. Yeah,
Philosopher's
Sorcerer's
Stone.
Stone, Prisoner of Azkaban, and then Goblet of Fire,
Okay, so
I believe.
I saw the first one, which is the Sorcerer's Stone.
Hmm.
I watched all the Harry Potter movies this year with my wife. Never seen them, never read the books. I still got to read the books, but I've watched the movies. And I saw Sorcerer's Stone and almost made me not finish it. So I dislike movies that are forced happy endings.
Yeah,
And I think, and like, I don't know how it is in the books. Maybe I don't get it. But when Dumbledore gave Gryffindor the extra 50 points that technically made them beat out Slytherin, I looked at my wife and I was like, imagine being a child in this wizarding school. That's so fucked. Like,
I'm wondering why we don't have any like extra scenes or deleted scenes of parents calling up Dumbledore being like, "Excuse me, my child worked so hard and blah 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 in
it's
Ravenclaw, and you did this." Like,
exactly.
where's that? Where are the outtakes? Because those parents were calling.
No, I was, when I saw that scene and my wife knew it was coming up and she knows I hate when movies and TV shows just do that, like just do that arbitrary thing so the hero has to win, right? And she
Right.
knew it was coming up and she was like just watching me. She's like, She's like, "Why are you staring at me?" She's just wait, just wait. And they did it, and I was like, "They did
Why?
what? Just you can't win at everything." And then he proceeds to win at everything in the next six
At
movies.
everything. Everything. Yep. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Again, parents need to be calling Dumbledore up, being like, "Look, this is unacceptable."
And, um, so even though you've been a big fan of D&D for a good part of your life, but you recently started playing it with the group. Um, I had a question. You know, how was the change from E5 to E6? But since you recently started playing with Baldur's Gate 3 and getting into
Mhm.
more of the pen and paper stuff, have you noticed any big changes from that update?
So there are some big changes, and a lot of it is on the player front in terms of the classes. They kind of tweaked a lot of those classes. Um, but what I love that they did with it, the way that they designed, I call it 5.5 because they're like, oh, it's the 2024 5e. And I'm like, dude, either call it 6 or I get it. They didn't change a ton. They just kind of retweaked.
Yeah.
Then call it 5.5, right? But, but my, it's interchangeable though the way that they designed it. So like the way that I run my tables, for instance, I was running 5e, and then when 5.5e came out, uh, I've been slowly transitioning us into that because again, it's very easy to kind of plug and play with
Mm-hmm.
it and kind of swap out rules, and that's what I've been doing too. Is I've been kind of doing a house rule kind of game.
Yeah.
It's a homebrew. I do all homebrew anyways. Like I try to do campaigns, and I've been doing some. I'm now on Descent into Avernus.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
It's fun.
yeah, but before then, I did a homebrew kind of intro to it because honestly, the beginning of Descent into Avernus sucks. The hook is awful. I
Yeah.
mean, the
Yeah.
hook is basically, "Hey, go save the world, or you're gonna go to jail." I'm like, "I'll go to jail. I don't want to risk
Yeah.
my life." Like, I mean, that's basically the hook.
Yeah.
And I was like,
It's
"No,
Suicide
that hook
Squad.
is." Yeah, I'm like that. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Precisely. So I was like, "No, I don't like that." So I homebrewed, and then during my homebrew, I was kind of modifying the rules from 5e and starting to incorporate little bits of rules from the new version. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Well,
easy.
yeah, okay, okay. So not too much of a change. I remember when it first came out, there was a lot of pushback. We don't like this. We're not using these new rules. Again, I was still new into D, and I'm still new into D&D myself. I've only played like a few games and done a few campaigns. Most of my D&D knowledge comes from Baldur's Gate 3. So as
Yeah.
someone who knows a little bit, I'm like, okay, it can't be that big of a deal. I was hoping that give me a little more insight, but
Well,
no, I mean,
I mean, I'll tell you right now. Um, a lot of it has to do again. A lot of it has to do with retweaking the classes. So, the druid, for instance, had a lot changed within it. I haven't played the druid itself, but I know that other players that have been playing it, where there's a lot of kind of different little intricacies. There's actually a video I watched, and he does a kind of a scene. I'd have to look him up on YouTube, but he does these videos where he does the old druid, the 5e druid, and the 5.5e druid, and they're
mhm.
like, "Hey man, what's up? Hey, how you doing?" And then they have the conversation. Wait, you could do this? I couldn't do that, and so it's hilarious.
Yeah,
But that's really what it is. It comes down to the classes themselves. There are a few different rule changes, like surprise, for instance. Uh, in five, whenever I would play with 5e, or if you're playing Baldur's Gate, if you surprise, you get the first turn, right?
yeah.
Not That's not how it works with
Mm.
5.5. So the way surprise works is they actually just roll their initiative with disadvantage. So
I
that's
mean,
how that works,
I
which is fine.
yeah, I can see that just
But
being. I feel like that's a give or take. Like, yeah, I could do theater work.
yeah, and I mean, and I guess it does make sense because D&D, they kind of have to. They're straddling the line between a game and a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have to have rules, super important. But the most important part of D&D is telling the story. So sometimes those rules can get in the way. And so I think the reason why they did that though was it kind of makes sense. Like if I'm surprised, yeah, it's going to take me a minute to catch up with what's happening, but it shouldn't guarantee that I don't get the first move because hey, if
Yeah,
you've got a veteran general that you surprised, chances are he might still be able to react quick enough, right?
yeah,
So the rules kind of make sense. And that's another kind of big change too, is in the books themselves, like the DM's guide. One of the big things that they make sure to put in there is look, these rules are guides. They're not hard and fast. If they don't work for your table, don't use them.
yeah,
Um, and then the DM's guide itself goes a lot more into the logistics of the meta gameplay of it. How do you schedule? What's the perfect number of players around that schedule? What if somebody can't show up? What if there's a disagreement? What if a couple characters want to enter a romance? How do you approach that as a DM? Things like that. So there's a lot more. So the rules themselves were tweaked slightly, but I think the main thing that I really liked that they did was in the books themselves and
Hmm.
really made it a lot more, not necessarily just user friendly, but more approachable.
Which, okay, I can see that. Yeah, made it more for a little more for a casualer audience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, there's definitely more casual elements into it, which makes sense because again, I think honestly, I always like to say this because I love Baldur's Gate so much. I think Baldur's Gate did that.
which I think it's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't want to
No,
make
not at all.
Yeah, you don't want to make something that's so complicated that's kind of hard to get into. It's sometimes nice to, okay, let's casualize a few things and then we can make it kind of recomplicated so this generation understands it instead of just like, nope, you got to figure it out or it's not going to make any sense.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and I like that too with D&D because if you keep it a little more open and a little more loose, it's great because then you can get creative as a DM. Whenever I'm at a table, I'll just do you mind if I tell a quick story?
yeah, of course.
Okay. So quick story, we were at the table. I'm doing my homebrew world that I've been building with my players. I'm kind of having them be my guinea pigs and testing it out. And there was basically a scene where there was this insane person who came out of this forest, which drives people insane. And they're trying to get insight into how to navigate this forest. Well, this guy's insane. You can't talk to him. Like he's
Hmm.
out of his mind. So one of my players was like, I'm gonna cast detect thoughts. I want to see what's going on in this guy's head. Okay, great. He does it. All he's hearing is like screams and you're not worthy and all this. It's basically if anybody has ever seen the movie Soul, it's almost like the scene when he in the end when he's trying to get to her and she's, kind of just huddled and being like not worthy, not good enough or anything like that. And that's kind of what he's hearing. And he goes, I'm gonna cast message. I'm like, for what? He's like, I'm gonna try to get him. I want to try to help. Like, oh, you want to navigate him out of like his insanity, like get him away from the voices. He's like, yeah. Well, in D&D, that means that the tech thoughts should no longer apply because it takes concentration, and
Yeah.
now you're concentrating on a different spell. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
I was like, here's how we're gonna do it though. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do dice rolls, of course. I said, go ahead and you already have your detect thoughts. You're in his head. Go ahead and do message. Try to guide him out. You're gonna need to do charisma checks though. He's like, wait, shouldn't I do wisdom because it's in his head? I was like, no, 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 you're already in his head.
Yeah, you got to convince him now.
You're convincing him, so it has to be charisma. And that's the other kind of beauty of D&D is the way the rules are is the looser rules still are enough of a foundation that I can build another kind of cool like mechanic.
The
And that's
rule
what
of
we did.
cool. The rule of cool.
Yeah, rule of cool. I'm all about rule of cool with D&D.
Oh, I would hope most people are. So, being a forever DM, as you say, and someone who is in the voice acting sphere of our society, you know, does that really let you shine?
Yeah, I mean, I just gave I'm in a I just got cast for an independent animation, and we were kind of talking about somebody was asking about different voices and like, hey, how do I work out accents and voices and things like that? And I said, hey, look, I don't have a direct resource right now for you to like learn it from the ground up or anything, but I said here's a great way to practice. Find a D&D table and be the DM for it. Because D&D like has been the most perfect practice ground for me for cuz you have to think not only do I have to have an accent, I don't have to, but you know what I mean? Not only do I want to put on an accent and a different tone, but I might have 2 or 3 NPCs in that conversation at a time. So I'm having to switch between different tones, different inflections, different accents, all that within seconds of each other.
Yeah,
So it really helps my voice acting and really helps me develop those voices and make them more natural too, because with D&D, it's all improv, right?
yeah, yeah,
You have an outline, but for the most part, those players are going to derail every single thing you ever planned ever. That's the first thing anybody needs to know as a DM.
yeah.
So you have to pivot and you have to kind of make things up on the fly. And so me having to have that accent and that tone without having a script in front of me, I have to learn how to do it naturally because I'm improving. So
Hmm.
now when I'm in the booth, I can just turn it on really easily
Now,
because
not
it's natural.
now, I'm not asking for like a demo reel or anything like that, but who are some of your favorite NPCs to voice? It would be just tavern master or a villain or
Yeah,
just a lowly goblin, is to if you don't mind showing me what's something that
sure.
you um your favorite NPCs to voice in past campaigns you've done.
Sure. So I mean, right now there's I'll go back as a player though to my war cleric, and you have Grugan Shattershield at your service.
Okay, yeah,
He's kind of a gruffer because he's a dwarf, right? And I feel like dwarves always have a slight Scottish accent, but whatever. But yeah, so you have Grugan Shattershield. I have been a little tiny imp.
okay.
Hello. So that's always fun. He didn't have a name, but he was an imp. Um, which for some reason in D&D, people always want to adopt goblins and imps. I don't know why.
Yeah,
But
they're like house cats. They do
yeah,
they
but
do their
then
own thing.
yeah, and then if there's some sometimes I like to just kind of put on like uh the air of sophistication and I say, "You need to go into that forest, but we will not help you because if you don't come back, well, that's on you." So I
Yeah,
just leave kind of a softer voice, and then sometimes if I'm really evil, I'll go down like this, and you'll have to go into the dungeon to face me. Stuff like that.
yeah,
So, I like ones that kind of force me to change up my voice
yeah,
to be unrecognizable if I can help it. But yeah, I like doing voices that have a little bit of that rasp, which isn't good for my vocal cords, but I like it just because it kind of adds almost like a depth to it.
a grittiness to it.
Yeah,
You got to. I mean, a villain has to sound like they smoke 10 packs a day.
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's time, if you feel ready, to start looking in the backlogs, games you've played in the past.
All right,
So,
let's do it. I probably forgot half of them.
I'm gonna ask more than just games, and if you're okay, if you don't want me to, I won't show this. But are you okay if I show your? I'm gonna use your PSN one. The program I used for Xbox didn't copyright properly, so I'm gonna use your uh, PS5 games you have played in the past. And your PS5 game, it seems like all the games you play on your PS5, you also own on your Xbox.
A lot of them, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so let me get this prepped. So, first one, seems like you're a big fan of Baldur's Gate 3, which we've brought up many, many times already. What about that game was so special besides it being take away the D&D elements?
Yeah.
What about that game just felt so special? Cuz Baldur's Gate 3 was also a special game for myself and a special game for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So what about it was just so magical?
So I'll use one of the characters in the game as a prime example. Astarion, okay? The elf that everybody thirsts after. That the elf vampire.
Yes.
And my wife was first playing it, Baldur's Gate at the time, and I was just kind of watching her. And I really hated Astarion. Like I'm like, this guy sucks. Like this is the worst character ever. Like he's such a jerk. I don't like him at all. And then I played it and got to see more of it. And when I was starting to play it longer and longer, I was like, oh my gosh, my little poor elf. Like
Yeah.
I bonded with him because I was like, holy crap, like a lot of it I'm starting to realize it's trauma response. Like a lot of how he acts. It's, he's gone through 200 years of trauma or however long. I can't, yeah, was it 200 years? I think it was 200 years. But again, when he reveals his age too, I can't remember his age off the top of my head, but he was under 100 when he became a vampire,
Mm,
which means that he will never become, in elven eyes, an adult.
yeah.
So he can never fully be like he can never fully grow up. He can never experience that. He can never have those typical trances that the elves had where they go through their old memories and all that good stuff. Like he can't do that anymore. And I'm like, and he was conditioned to lure people in for his master. So that's like second nature to him. And I think a lot of times the other thing too that I love that they approached with were the romances.
Yeah.
Um, on multiple levels. A lot of times with romances, it's all I got to do is give you 500 flowers, and once I reach 500 flowers, I can suddenly be dating you
Yeah.
in the game. No, Baldur's Gate, sometimes you got to work for it. Like
Mm,
Karlach took me about 2 to 300 hours to finally get her romanced. Of consistent different gameplays. Like I
yeah.
was playing
Yeah.
multiple gameplays, and every time I'm trying to romance her, and it just was not working because you got to do it just right with her.
Yeah.
And And again, going back to the Astarion thing, Astarion same way, trying to romance him, he'd be like, "Oh, it's nothing against you, darling. I just have standards." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What?" Oh, but yeah, but Astarion again, like his progression and his story arc. Tell people, I'm like, he goes from chaotic evil to not necessarily lawful good, but he's kind of a chaotic neutral
I would
by
say a
the end,
chaotic neutral. Yeah,
right?
I would have to agree.
Yeah, so he, especially when when they came out with that one patch that they added in that epilogue,
Yeah.
the which another thing, shout out to Larian, like the only company where they're like, "Oh, we need to patch something. Oh, and by the way, we added this in." It's like,
Yeah,
I mean, I would have bought that
we gave you
as a
4 more hours
DLC.
of gameplay.
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, I would have bought that as a DLC. Like, well, no, we figured, you accidentally the camera accidentally pushes you off this cliff in Act Two, so we're gonna fix that. But we figured while we were at it, we might as well just give you 4 more hours of content. It's like,
Yeah.
no, just take my money. Which is funny because it's like you always want to complain about that, about oh, I got to pay all this money and da da da.
But
No, with Larry, I'm like, no, please take my money. Like you
oh,
literally did give me a great game, but that was the thing that drew me about it was just that kind of the way that they approached the story of each character was their own, like had their own kind of story. It didn't detract from the big story, right? But it integrated them really well into it. And again, those romances. I'm gonna be honest, absolutely heterosexual man. Helson though, that Helson scene, that
okay.
was steamy,
So you've
steamy.
so you've seen them all.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've seen every romance. I've done every romance. Oh no, I haven't done the Will romance yet. I'm working on that one next.
Okay. Okay.
But
Well, so,
Halcyon, man, whoo,
yeah, that better
that
go.
that Papa Bear, I will, I would date Papa Bear. He's amazing.
Okay. Okay.
So that's what I got to say about that game. Again, the D&D aside, which love that aspect of it. It's really the way that they executed everything. I mean, the voice actors. Um, there's a scene again. This one is new enough. I'm not going to spoil it. So there is a scene though with Astarion that is just so. I actually had to stop playing afterward for a good 24 hours, no joke, because it was so emotional for me to watch him go through what he was going through. I literally had to stop. I saved the game, turned it off. I looked to my wife at the time and I said, I can't play for a while. She's like, what's wrong? I was like, after that, she's like, oh no, I had to stop too when she got to that. Because it's just, I
Well,
mean, it's a movie that I get to play.
if you want to, I mean, we can give a spoiler warning. We'll give it now.
Yeah.
Skip ahead 35 seconds. What's the scene? Because
Yeah.
I've done Astarion's full story.
Yeah. So it's right after you defeat Cazador. Which, by the way,
Oh,
another little thing. Shout out to Neil Newbin, the way he says Cazador every time. There's that little bit of venom to it, and it's just perfect. But anyway, when you finally defeat Cazador and he has that decision, before becoming ascended, like he can take out, he can either mark Cazador up or he can just kill him. And I have him kill him. In one of my playthroughs, I had him kill Cazador, and afterward, just the pain and anguish that you see on his face and the screaming and this because it was a mix. Like Neil Neil Newbin, the voice actor for him, for Astarion, he captured so many different emotions in that scene in the same moment too. There was relief, there was pain, there was suffering, there was even a little bit of joy hinted at it, maybe, but all of it all wrapped up into one. You know, and it was just again watching it though. I'm like the culmination of all those years of trauma and torture he was going through. He was, and just that release that you can see from him, but also
hmm
still that pain that he has to walk with.
yeah,
And honestly, it makes me emotional even talking about it. And again, this is not even my life. This is
yeah.
a computer generated person's life. And I got so emotional about it, I had to turn off the game.
I remember going through that scene. It was just really powerful. Not there was a I had to redo it. If I know how people feel about save scumming, but I had to save scum it a few times because I didn't really like the outcome. I was wanted to give Astarion full power and didn't
Yeah.
realize it was going to make him evil. I thought he was going to keep his good nature, and so I was like, wait,
Yeah.
wait, I don't want to do that. That changes the
Yeah.
entire course of everything I was doing with my playthrough.
I mean, I did an Embraced Urge playthrough. So naturally, when I did that playthrough,
Yeah.
I let him ascend.
Yeah, yeah. Um, now, another game I want to ask about. So we talked about Hogwarts Legacy. So would you like to
Yeah,
tell me, what you like about that game?
the flying. I got to
Okay.
fly on a broom. No,
Yeah.
I'll be honest though, that was a bit like the visuals in that game were so gorgeous. I really would just like ride around on my broom because it was just so beautiful, just flying above all this. But I think for me, for the Hogwarts, they did such a great job reproducing Hogwarts in that game. I mean, it was a I wish I had a VR headset for it. I haven't gotten one yet. I wish I had a VR headset for it because it was so well done and the attention to detail that they did on like, you go up to the chalkboards and you can see all the lessons and and they're all relevant to Harry Potter. What I think for me though, one of the best parts about it was kind of getting into the intricacies of the spells,
Okay.
and in order to learn the spell, they made you actually do the shapes and stuff, which I'm like, that's so cool. Like, having to get into the nitty gritty of it. Because again, with video games, sometimes I do like to have that experience where it's like I have to learn a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of cool playing it that way. And again, story, great, excellent story. Loved playing the story itself. The only gripe I have about that game, they reproduced the Quidditch field, but they did not give us friggin' Quidditch even as a DLC. So I'm a little disappointed by that.
I think if I had to guess, I think the reason they didn't do that is because they ended up just making a Quidditch game, and I think
Yeah,
they
I know,
wanted.
but still,
Yeah, that Quidditch
like,
game
can
kind of
you?
sucked. I bet the developers who made Hogwarts Legacy could have probably made a better Quidditch game.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, the visuals in it. I mean, again, the visuals that they came up with are just astounding. There's been times in that game that I'd be playing it, and they would have, a certain thing come across the screen at Hogwarts. Like, I mean, they had the flying books and everything, and I'm like, how the hell? Because again, I know enough about coding. That's not easy physics
Yeah.
to have things flying around all over the place in one scene, like having all those different sprites everywhere. And I'm like, technically, it was a great game.
Yeah.
So
Look, great story, but just on a making games perspective, a fun game to play and see be made.
yeah, yeah, it was amazing. And I think again, I think with what I liked about that too is it was an approachable game.
Mm-hmm.
Like I obviously set it to the hardest difficulty
Yeah, yeah.
because I'm like one of those people. But my ex-wife, she's very much again, she is very much story driven
Mm-hmm.
herself, like to the point where she doesn't want the challenge. So she
Yeah.
is on the super easy mode. She actually was able to play it on a higher difficulty because after the way that they set it up was once you actually got the mechanics down, it was almost like a wash, rinse, repeat kind of process, but not in a bad way. Because normally with video games, it's like, hey, once I got this down, all I had to do was just keep doing the same button combination. That was it, and I beat the
Yeah.
game. And that gets boring. Hogwarts, it wasn't like that. There was still that kind of element because it was legit like a wizarding duel. When you were having a wizarding duel, it felt like a wizarding duel. You had to be spot on, and as long as you were spot on, you would win. But being spot on means you have to almost have a ritual about what you're doing.
Yeah.
So the way that they implemented that in the game is it's like it wasn't necessarily boring because it felt like, oh, this is exactly what a wizard needs to do in a duel. It's like you have to be precise. You just have to have the same exact way that you always do it, or you're going to lose.
Which that's fair. Actually, I've never played Hogwarts Legacy, but that sounds pretty cool. Now I will.
Yeah,
It's currently free on PlayStation Plus, and that sounds like I'm gonna have to give it a try.
you have to. It's arguably one of the most amazing games visually, and I love the storyline. Again, some people might not like the controls because it does get
Yeah.
easier as you play
Yeah.
along. But again, if you make a mistake though, the stakes are a lot higher. So it's like if you make a mistake later on in the game and you didn't hit that X at the right time that you normally did, you're going down. It's
Makes
very unforgiving about you not following the process. So
makes
which
sense.
is which is great.
So, with this, so some two games that you sound like you put a lot of time into. Now you have a few games that you should probably put more time into.
Yeah.
Now I will say this is me looking at your PlayStation account, so this is most likely gonna not reflect what you actually play, but um, you only have 2 trophies on The Last of Us Part 2, which means that you've only had to have played the first 10 minutes. And I'm assuming last time you played it was March of 2025, so you probably played it in anticipation of the show.
No, yeah, well, part of it was the show. Truth be told, the reason why that one wasn't played all the time, I was starting to play it with my ex-wife.
Okay.
So I not playing it anymore. So that was right around the time that we were getting divorced. So we played it, and then the divorce happened. So I haven't really been playing it yet. I do intend on getting it, both Last of Us and Part Two.
Okay.
Um, I can say that I know the game. I wouldn't say I know it in and out, but I know the game really well because of my ex-wife playing both games
Mm-hmm.
completely while I was in the room, and I got really into it. Um, because she can't play horror games without somebody in the room.
Understandable.
She's one of those.
Yeah.
But so I watched the whole game, and then I was gonna play it, and so I do intend on getting it for the PC, or if I end up getting the Xbox again or the PlayStation again, I'm gonna play it again. It's a great game. I'm stuck at where was I? I can't remember all the names, but he was the clicker. Oh, it was the clicker. That's what it was. It was the clicker. I'm stuck at that first clicker. He keeps killing me before I can kill him.
Oh, okay, so you're still all pretty beginning area.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have you seen the show?
Oh yeah, I
Oh,
love the show. The
okay.
show's amazing. I loved in the first episode that they almost completely recreated like that initial like scene that running scene that they did
Yeah,
with the truck. It's almost complete like I
one
felt
to
like it was
one.
a shot for shot. Yeah.
Yeah, that was that. Okay,
And
we'll say that was cool.
yeah, and then I love what they do on the show meta wise too. Like they've been having all the voice actors come on
Yeah,
and be characters in the show like what the original Ellie, she's the mom in
yeah.
it. She's Ellie's mother in one of the episodes, and I'm like, Ashley Johnson. I'm like, that's so cool. Like, so I love the way that they're doing the show itself because a lot of times with video game shows or movies, it's like, all right, you're doing a cash grab. You're clearly doing a cash grab. That's all you're doing. This movie sucks. Why did you even make it? Tomb Raider. But Last of Us, though, when you're watching that show, it's very clearly a labor of love for them. I mean, they have, the game designers involved and all that good stuff, so
Yeah.
it makes sense. But, even then, you can tell it's a labor of love and that they want to obviously bring that story to new people who don't even play video games, and I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But they did it in a way, though, that still tailors to us gamers who grew up with these kind of games and who have played Last of Us and love it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're walking a really fine line. You always have to in video game shows. They do it brilliantly, and they do enough where they can leave Easter eggs without making it obvious that they're leaving Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I love that. It's been genius.
So I haven't seen the show. I've played the games, but I've seen the memes. Have you seen the memes?
There's a lot of them out now.
Have you?
Yeah, there's some funny ones.
Which which ones? So how do you feel about the memes that are talking about the way the voice actress looks? And they say the chopped of us, the I'm gonna be a dad, and how they recreate the scene. When watching the show and seeing those scenes, do you think those are valid criticisms, or do you think they're just kind of people that just want to still angry about the game and still want to vent their frustration?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of again with any time that you're coming out with something that has a following already, you run that risk, right? Um, I'll put it this way, like going back to way back in the day when anime was anime when it was just called Japanimation when it was coming over here. It
Mm-hmm.
was kind of the same kind of concept. You had Cowboy Bebop, for instance, coming out. Um, the voice actor for Spike in there, he talked about he would get death threats because people were so like, I can't believe you're doing this. You're dubbing this. This is bullshit. Why are you? I don't know if you can say
You can
it
you
on
can
your
cuss.
channel, but
This is
okay.
I got like
Um,
13 subscribers. It's okay if you
Okay,
cuss.
perfect. So yeah, it's like this is bullshit. This is outrageous. I can't believe you're dubbing this. It needs to be pure. Da 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 da. So you have those people. There's always going to be people like that, and I get it. I get it. I really do because I'm a big fan myself of things. I was worried when J.J. Abrams took over Star Trek, for instance,
Yeah, yeah.
but at the end of the day, I'm like, guys, think about it this way. That show is introducing people to this video game. Same way Baldur's Gate introduces people to D&D.
Mm-hmm.
first of all, who cares if it's not perfect to the game? Secondly, who cares if it's not perfect in general?
Yep.
What matters is that people are starting to love the same IP that you love now. For different reasons, of course, but they still love it, and that's what's important.
Mm. Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad you like the show, and I hope you play the game. I thought the games were pretty good. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people didn't like part two. I will say I don't think part two is as good as part one personally, but it's the continuation of the story.
Yeah, I'm still salty about Joe though. They didn't have to do that. I love him so much.
I have you seen The Walking Dead?
Yeah. Yeah.
I stopped watching The Walking Dead when Glenn died. That's a that,
Me too. He was
ne-
my favorite character.
Negan's not forgivable. I don't
Ever
care.
since then, ever since then, that guy was his name? I can't remember. He's one of those three name guys. The guy who plays Negan. Jeffrey Duncan something.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Thank you. Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Ever since then, like I know he's a great guy. I mean, and I loved him in Supernatural. He
Yeah.
was good in Grey's Anatomy. But we were rewatching Grey's Anatomy. I'm like, that's right. You die. You die.
When
You die. Like
when
I hate him, which goes to his credit as him as an actor that he did
yeah.
such a good job that I instinctively hate him now. But yeah, ever since Glenn, I stopped watching too.
Have you seen Invincible?
I've seen the first two episodes so far.
Well,
I just started it.
I don't want to give you
But
spoilers then, so I won't get
I mean
into it.
I've seen enough of the random videos that come out of it though, but yeah.
Okay, well, when you get there, there will be revenge. I know I just spoiled it, but you don't know who the
Oh
revenge
good.
is.
Oh good. I
Yes,
can't wait
but
then.
I don't care how much they try to redeem Negan. Just kill him
No,
for
you
me.
killed Glenn.
I
You killed
what
Glenn.
I tell my friends this all the time. Once Negan dies, then I'll watch everything. I will know that there's the payoff. That after 8-9 years of payoff, I'm willing to wait.
Yeah.
Um,
Which, by the way, speaking of Walking Dead and Last of Us, why do they always just use the same exact block font? You ever notice that? Every logo, same exact block font if it's zombies.
I think it's just easy to be like, oh yes, this means zombies are here.
Yeah, that's what
Kind
I mean. It's like
kind of
Walking
like
Dead, it's like that block. Last of Us, that block.
kind of
I'm like,
like
oh,
kind of like with vampires. Vampires kind of use like old English. I feel like
yeah,
there's
like
old
the
English.
gothic
Yeah,
kind of, yeah.
and it's kind of like, oh, if I see this text, I kind of know I'm gonna be dealing with vampires.
Yep,
Um,
that makes sense.
Now there's a few games you don't have many hours on, but there's one particular that breaks my heart, and I need to ask. And it's the big one. So I always have, even in my first episode, I had that one game I had to ask my friend. The last person I talked to only had 4 hours in Baldur's Gate 3. And his reasoning was it wasn't fun. He didn't think it was entertaining. He thought the story was
Okay.
weird. And but
And it is weird.
but he's unfortunately a brain rotted individual that, you know, one of his most played games was Fortnite and Marvel Rivals.
And that's probably why he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
It's,
And that's
I mean, honestly, the camera alone, like, especially I tried to play it on PC without a controller. I went out and bought a PS5 controller since, but I tried to play it with my keyboard. Holy crap, that game does suck. I'm not gonna kid you at all. That game
I didn't think
sucks
it was that bad,
on
but
keyboard. On keyboard and mouse, it sucks. The camera
keyboard
is terrible.
keyboard and mouse is amazing, but if you're used to always playing a controller, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
gonna.
no, that's the thing. I played a lot of PC games in my life. Like Team Fortress Classic used to be my jam back in the day. But for some reason, it's just the camera in Baldur's Gate. I think it's because it's like
The layering, you
I,
have to like zoom and zoom out, and
yeah,
the layers are weird. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. So it's like trying to do that while you're running. And I'm like, can I just make my scroll bar do it, please?
I
You know?
I will
So,
say
but on the controller, it's great.
I've never played on the controller, so I will have to guess try it on the controller. Well, now the game I
Yeah.
want to ask about. Do you know what game it might be? It's okay if you don't.
I don't know off the top of my head. There's so many that I have
You
not played that I meant to.
you've played it. The last time you played it was January 18th, 2021.
And I haven't played very many hours of it.
I can only surmise that because you have two trophies. It's Red Dead Redemption 2.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. I only played it for a little bit on the PlayStation. I
Oh,
ended up
okay.
getting it for the Xbox. We're okay. No,
I was like, that game is
never ever
Shakespeare.
say I didn't play that game because that game is why I want to go camping now. Like legit. But I want to go like camping. Like show up, yeah, leave the food in the truck, go fishing, hunt my own stuff, take out my knife and skin them. That game is so good.
Okay, that makes more sense because I saw that I was like, this person literally has Shakespeare in their library and has only played it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, that makes
no,
more
no.
sense.
I have played it way, 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 way. I wouldn't say too much because there's no such thing with that game.
Yes.
But I played it through the horse and everything, and at the end, oh yeah, I love that
Yeah.
game.
Okay. Well, now moving on to my next couple of questions. Knowing that you've played it kind of gets rid of the couple of questions I had. But
Sorry.
no, it's fine. I'm glad you played it. That's such a phenomenal game. I have a couple questions of past YouTube videos you have.
Sure.
So, you had a live stream 9 months ago on International Play Music on Your Porch Day,
Oh yeah, that was
and
fun.
there you were drinking a can of something. Was it a Coke Zero? Do you drink Coke Zero?
I have drank Coke Zero. You might have seen me drinking Labatt non-alcoholic. That's what I was drinking a lot of that day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Because
it's the blue can with the red lettering.
yep, okay. That's why I was like, that looks like a Coke Zero, but also doesn't. And now I will say, I have to ask, when you were doing that, you were drinking this, what I believe was Coke Zero, and you were on the mic getting
Yeah.
it. I don't even know what song you were singing. What did your neighbors think of? Because in that instance, you were a professional across the street neighbor that day.
Yeah, I always make sure when I'm doing things like that, I always talk to my neighbors and stuff because, technically I can be that guy and be like, it's not against the law, but I'm like, no, let's
Yeah,
be
yeah.
respectful. I did ask him, I said, hey, just so you know, I'm gonna be on my porch for International Music on the Porch Day. Here's how it is. And most of them, I had great neighbors at the time. Most of them were like, "Oh, awesome! That's so cool." And tell me more about it. And I showed them like there's like maps that they have where people can put on that they're playing on their porch and stuff for
Okay,
that day. And so yeah, we had a whole thing. We had people walking by, and it was a really good time. And I don't have any neighbors that got too mad. So
okay. I do want to ask. We're kind of over on our time. Are you still good? Okay, perfect.
yeah, I
Um,
got a few more minutes.
okay, sweet. So I have a few more questions. It's about past websites you've made.
Oh my gosh.
You seem to be a businessman, a business starter. So okay, if I
Hmm.
ask you about these,
Yeah, absolutely.
what is jsministries.org? Found
Hmm.
three, jsministries.org, Odyssey Tech Services, and it seems like your most recent website, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, so I'm sorry, Tabletop Tyrus?
Yeah, tabletop trysts.
Tabletop
Yep.
Trist?
Yeah,
So,
right here.
yeah, I was going to say, I noticed the logo because it's the logo on your shirt and the logo on your
Yeah,
YouTube page, which I will make sure to link at the bottom of the
sure.
description. But what got you into wanting to make these, websites,
Yeah.
or these businesses? It seems like you've tried to do podcasts many times.
Yeah, yeah. I'm doing it again, actually.
Which, yeah, I saw that. I can't remember the name of it, but it's on your tabletop Chris
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
So I've got Tabletop Trysts, and then also I'm trying a podcast called Not Just the Voice.
Yes, that's what it was. I saw that on
Um,
Spotify.
yeah, so I'm working on Not Just the Voice. But yeah, for me, I'm always trying to explore something that's gonna kind of enrich my life. JS Ministries, that's my ministry site. I haven't updated it in like a long time, but I still do ministry, of course. But yeah,
Okay.
I'm a minister. So primarily I do worship ministry, but I've also done weddings and such, and I did do my own little kind of podcast around that. Kind of on my journey through ministry because I got converted, became a minister all in the span of like a year.
Okay.
So, so I like doing that. Odyssey Tech Services, that's a blast from the past. That was my first LLC, and it was like almost I want to say 20 years ago almost that I first started that. Um, wow, yeah, it's been almost 20 years that I first started it, and then I think the website itself is at least a decade at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did that. That was my IT company. Did a lot of cool stuff there. I got to work for a school district, which
Dude,
was fun.
badass. That's awesome.
Yes, yeah, I got to work with a whole school district. Sometimes I have to go home and take a shower from all the sweat because
Yeah.
I'd be literally running. But yeah, and then I did that, and then yeah, the tabletop tryst. That's kind of my newest venture. That's me getting, doing D and D. And really, the main premise of me starting that was trying to make it D&D is accessible to as many people as possible because D&D itself has done a lot to heal me kind of during my divorce
Yeah.
and kind of helped me do two things. It's helped me avoid some of it because let's be real, sometimes you got to avoid the pain, but then also allowed me to process through that pain
Hmm.
and kind of project it into my characters to allow me to work through them.
So
So
so I wanted to ask because it seems like the most recent is the tabletop Chris.
yeah,
And it's you also have a YouTube channel. I have the at the bottom of your description. You can't see it, but on my recording screen I see it, which is you're at tabletop Tris, and I'm assuming everyone can find you on most social media platforms.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Usually tabletop Tris, or I mean, if you just look up my name,
yeah.
James Schofield too. I've got most of my stuff set to public.
So when looking at these websites, and your YouTube channel, it looks like you're using a lot of AI. And I saw a few
I am now, yeah.
comments. I saw a lot of comments that were like, get the AI slop out of here. What is this? I don't want to see
Yeah.
AI on my YouTube. What made you, as someone, who is a hard worker as yourself, who's, created businesses, done many different podcasts, what made you want to transition to using AI? I mean, looking at that, your most tabletop tricks YouTube channel, it kind of looks like at least the shorts were almost one of those what are they called, like automation, YouTube automation type of
Yeah.
channels for D&D.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean
Yeah.
I mean that's really the main thing was the money for me for now. I mean personally I'm a big advocate for AI as a tool.
Hmm.
Um I don't necessarily want to use it for the actual artwork and such. But right now I can't afford to commission an artist.
Which is
So
understandable.
yeah, so I want to. My game plan is to commission an artist to be able to do everything for me. And I do a lot of what I can do on my own. I do photo editing and such too. So I do have a little bit of knowledge and I can do a little bit, but I'm not great at it. And, AI allows me to, get that out. And for tabletop tris, at least, a lot of times I'm using it almost as a tool to see if I can even take it to an artist. So, because my philosophy is if I give AI a description and it gives me a halfway decent picture, if AI with no creative bone in its body, because it's not human, can do that, if I give it to an artist, they're going to be able to make something nice, right? So it was really just that's really what it was born out of. Since I've gotten some of the comments, I've kind of strayed away a little bit from that and using
Yeah.
the AI. Just because again, my whole thing is, if people don't like it, I'm not going to do it, you know.
Fully understandable.
So, but for me, I feel like AI as a tool though is amazing. I use Notebook LM for a lot of my D&D sessions, which is, Gemini or Google's AI
Yeah,
driven
yeah.
kind of, note taking software. And that's been amazing because that AI only uses my source code. So it only uses my information I'm giving it to draw from.
Hmm.
And, so that way I can reference things and it can make suggestions. But yeah, I mean, AI, it's such a touchy subject right now, and I get it. And me as a creator, I understand as well on both fronts, right? I understand it both as a content creator and as just a creative, somebody who writes music, who writes stories and all this stuff. So I look at it this way. Let's be real. Anything you create right now, you're ripping off of somebody. Let's just set that to bed. Nobody is going to create anything anymore. Everything has already been created at some point in our history of the world. You're not any different. You're not coming out with something extraordinary that's different from everybody else. It's the same thing that somebody's done. It could have been 100 years ago, but they did it, right? Ed Sheeran just had to go to, or I remember Ed Sheeran's court case about that, where he showed, okay, here's literally 100 songs with the same chord progression as mine, right?
Yeah.
So I look at AI just almost as a culmination of what we already do anyways, and that's us drawing inspiration, us drawing guidance, us drawing sometimes literally tracing the outline of somebody else's work, right? It's just I think the issue with it now is because it's so easy to do, right?
Yeah.
So many people can rip off of somebody else. And you'll notice what I'll try to do is typically when I do AI, when I do the prompts for that, I try to reference dead artists as instructing that AI to use as the inspiration. Now, obviously, I know that that's not a guarantee, but at
Yeah.
least if I'm using dead artists who don't have, an estate already,
Yeah.
set up. I'm not taking from anybody who's currently working,
Yeah.
right?
Which
So I
is
try to do
it's
that as
fair.
much as I can. Yeah, so I guess, people say it's an oxymoron, but I try to ethically use AI.
Now, I do have one more question about the use of AI. As
Yeah.
someone who's in the voice acting sphere, and I'm
Yep.
sure you know my next question because there's all the drama with AI voice actors. How do you feel about that? Because you know that is slowly going to be a more encroaching thing. And I mean, if you look at my past videos, they were mainly for practice, but because I
Yeah.
didn't want to go straight into doing something like this and have zero editing skills, zero skills. So I was like, well, I'm just going to do the most common denominator of what most people do. Um, so I did, use AI voices. Some of the voices are my voice that I just put AI filters over as well.
Sure.
But how do you feel that, saying all that about AI art, about now kind of AI voice acting is starting to become popular,
Yeah.
starting to take over, um, you know, works that people are making.
Yeah. So again, it's another kind of fine line area that we're in. I think AI voices are excellent for certain things. It's but there's all this talk about, oh, they're gonna take the jobs from voice actors and that. I'm like, most of the time it won't, because here's the difference. AI literally cannot produce somebody who sounds happy, but they're sad,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They can't do that nuance when they're delivering a performance. So, AI, I think, is again a great tool. Like for me, I would have no problem inputting my vocals into a model to develop an AI voice for myself
Mm-hmm.
that I can use for, let's say, auditions. There
Yep,
might be auditions that I can't do, that I'm not going to have time for,
yep,
right? But those auditions, they might be e-learnings, which are pretty just to the point, succinct, and that's it, right? There's not a lot of inflections, there's not a lot of dramatics. So sure, let me use that AI voice to audition for it, because it's going to capture, they're going to know who I am, because it's those models are really scary nowadays and how close that they can get to you.
yeah,
You give them an hour of dialogue, and next thing you know, they can do everything. But I can audition for it so they get an idea of what the voice sounds like, and then of course, I do the actual job. But in terms of it, like, completely replacing people and the implications of it, I'm still very careful whenever I'm going after different voice acting jobs. I'm still very, very, very careful to look at the fine print of it and see how they're going to use that waveform, right?
yep,
Because they're going to own it. They're going to own the waveform. And a lot of times you'll see the contracts coming in that they cannot use it for AI.
yep,
So my thing about AI, it's all about consent for me, at least, for using my voice.
yep.
Now,
Right.
using my creativity and stuff, again, I have no problem with that with AI. But yeah, my voice, that's me.
I get it. You don't want to make a 30-minute reel, and they're like, "We'll take you," and then you get paid, and then it turns out they used your 30-minute reel to make 8 hours worth of voice content. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And then also on our end, there's another issue too, where it's like, okay, so if they do that, that is technically my voice. Let's say it's for McDonald's, and now Burger King approaches me for a commercial, but they want exclusivity. Can I take that now, or can I not? Because technically my voice is on a McDonald's ad.
Yep. I see. I
You
see.
know, so there's a lot of implications that people are still kind of navigating through, because it's a hairy situation.
Yeah.
What do you do when it's a replication of your voice but not actually you?
Yep.
So
And then my last question before we wrap things up is there any advice that you would like to give to other individuals or you wish you could give to your younger self or you're kind of at in life right now?
I honestly, I would say keep at it. There's a lot of things that I've gone through in my life that I've tried, I've gone through, I've been starting to get successful at it, and then kind of threw it away, right? I just lost interest, or suddenly, sometimes you just got to push through it. When you have a passion that you're trying to convert into money making,
Yep.
like D&D and all that good stuff, there's going to be times when you're like, crap, this is work. It's like, well, yeah, you decided to make it work.
Yep.
So just make sure that, anything that you're doing, if it's something that brings you joy and you're trying to convert it, understand that there will be times that it's going to be work, but still make sure to have fun with it,
Always.
but stick with it. Don't let it go. Because if you loved it in the past, you're going to love it again. Just stick with it.
Well, thank you for giving that little bit. Where can people find you?
Yeah. So I can be found. I've got two different YouTube channels that you can find me, either at Tabletop Trysts or at James Dash Schofield, because had to do that. But yeah, James Schofield is my voice acting / music page on Tabletop Tris is for my D&D.
Well, thank you again for being on the show, guest number 2. I
Yeah.
really don't have an outro yet, so